Welcome to the Joshua the Psychic podcast, where we explore how to enhance your health, wealth, love, and perfect self-expression through the power of astrology and insightful conversations with amazing guests. I'm your host, Joshua the Psychic, and today I'm thrilled to introduce Diane, a well-recognized leader in the fragrance and beauty industry. With her extensive background at international flavors and fragrances, Avon and Revlon, Diane brings a wealth of knowledge about fragrance development and its intricate connections to personal expression and creativity. So welcome, Diane. Thanks so much for being on the show, the very first podcast that I'm doing. I so appreciate you being here.
I'm excited. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. It's so great. So before we talk about your history, your background, and fragrance, of course, I want to talk a little bit about your astrology chart. We got to do a reading for you. I think it was about a month ago, maybe.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was such a really cool chart. I'll show it for the viewers at home if you're watching this on YouTube. But as you can see, Diane has she's an Aries with a Leo rising and a Taurus moon, and that's her big three. So Aries, Leo, and Taurus. And well, first of all, Diane, do you identify as an Aries everything that you've read about the sign of Aries?
I think pretty much, yes. It does say, I think the sign reflects the fact that I am a bit impatient. I'm certainly a self-starter, very independent, very generous to a fault, and a leader. That can be a good thing or a bad thing when you have a boss who's trying to tell you and you're saying to yourself, no, I let me just get out of the way. I can do this, so there's that. So I think for the most part, yes, I think I am a true Aries.
Well, what's so interesting, I would say you are, because you have a Leo rising, and that makes the sun the ruler of your chart. And the sun is a planet in astrology. So the sun is the ruler of the chart, and the sun is, of course, in Aries. So that does make you a very, very strong Aries. But what's interesting, well, number one, that sun does shine in the ninth house, and that's where the sun rejoices, in the ninth house. So the ninth house pertains to entrepreneurship, leadership, publishing, broadcast, and you have done even things internationally too, which the ninth house has to do with as well, right?
Yes, that's true. Yes.
Yeah, it's so fascinating. What's really cool is that Sun in Aries is very close to Venus, and Venus pertains to beauty. So and I feel like the Sun close to Venus, granted Venus is retrograde, but it's Venus nonetheless. I feel like it brings out I don't want to say softer. Well, yeah, I would say probably softer aspects of Aries. In my experience, Aries can be very romantic, very pure, very honest. What I love about Aries always is that what you see is what you get. Like,
Absolutely.
There's not really this pretense,
Yes.
They're really, I don't want to say, I would say even simple in some respects, which is really nice because you're not having to really think about, okay, where's this person coming from? They're saying this, but do they mean this? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's true. I think, I've always taken people for who they are. I base my opinions on what they say, how they react to me, how they react to others. And it works very well when I was hiring people, especially in the workplace, because it was really, I kind of went on my gut instinct. And I didn't try to read too much into certain things. There are people that can sit and just spin for hours. What do you think he meant by this and that? You know what? This is what it is. Let's move on. I'm much more of a person that in that respect. So yes, you're right. And the same thing for myself. I don't lie. I don't try to tell people something that isn't true. I don't put on airs. What you see is what you get. I try to do my best every day, and it is what it is. It's very simple. It's an easy way to live, for sure.
Yeah. Well, it makes it easier to not have to think about things. Like, there's a certain rawness, I think, and also I feel like a certain inherent confidence that Aries have, and I just think that there's that sense of rawness, of speed, and that might also have to do with it. They're so fast that they don't really have time to put on those airs, right?
Yeah.
They want that
Moving.
immediacy. Yeah.
Right. Moving ahead. Just move ahead.
And as you said about like hiring people, well, number one, I mean, Aries is just, it's the entrepreneur of the zodiac, really. And they say you can't really hide anything from an Aries. Like they're very intuitive, like
Yes.
instinctual. They know what's up, and they might not know how they know, but they just know.
Absolutely. It's so
They're
funny you
very
say that.
psychic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel that all the time. And I say to myself, why do I think I know that? I just do. It just comes to me and I go with it. So you're right.
Yeah, I love that. But what's interesting about leadership, I mean, you got leadership everywhere in this chart, because granted, you're an Aries, which is a leader in and of itself, and it's in the 9th house, which has to do with leadership, but also you're a Leo rising. And Leo is, they want to be the leader. They're leader of the pack. So that Leo energy is very, very fiery. And I guess with that Leo energy and all this leadership stuff, have you found it hard in your profession to work for other people and report to others?
It depends on the person, I will tell you. If I have a boss who trusts me and can pretty much leave me on my own to do what I think is right, we get along like a house on fire. If I have a micromanager who's bugging me every day and wants reports and where were you yesterday, and then it's not going to work. It's the same thing in my personal life. I've had relationships where if I don't call somebody back, he'll say, where have you been? Please don't ever ask me that. Don't check up on me. Like, I'm a grown up. I don't like people checking up and kind of crawling up my neck. It just annoys me. So like I said, it depends on the person. My last boss was very, very good. He left me alone. He trusted me, and we got along terrifically. We were more like partners, really, than him having me be quote unquote the boss. We would go out with clients, and he'd say, "Well, they say I'm her boss, but I'm really not." Like he kind of knew. So it was good. It was good that way. But now I'm consulting and I'm on my own, so I'm my own boss, which is great. Really like it. Yeah.
I bet it's a much more natural fit for you, as opposed to like, so here's what we did today. I mean, it's a weird feeling when you are such a leader and you're having to report to somebody, because there's that inherent sense of, well, I should be in this position.
Yes. That's very true. Yeah.
But what's interesting, Diane, is that even though the opposite of Aries is Libra and the opposite of Leo is Aquarius, the sign before a sign or after a sign is like a rebuttal to the sign.
Mm-hmm.
So you have a Taurus stellium. And if you look over here in your 10th house, you got your Jupiter in Taurus, you got your Mars in Taurus, and you got your moon, which is very important. So even though you're an Aries and you're a leader and you describe yourself at times as perhaps impatient, the Taurus energy is really, I think, strong. It's just as much as, well, probably not just as much as your Aries, but pretty close, in the sense that, the moon is very, very important, and that's your instinctual reactions. So what the order of operations typically is Aries start the stuff, right? And then Taurus either finishes it or they nurture it. And Taurus is known to be very much slower. They're very patient. They're an earth sign, and they're not as easily riled up. Like, it's very, 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 very tough to get a Taurus mat. If you do, watch out. They will go after you. However, it's not like Aries, where Aries typically has like a hair trigger temper and it doesn't last long. Like, they blow up and then it's over, and they're like, oh yeah, we're over that, So I guess my question to you is, do you also feel as if you have that side of you that is very, very patient, that is really earthy, that doesn't make any sudden moves?
Yes, absolutely. I don't, you know, I think that could also be from working so many years. You have to learn to keep, you know, self-control, you know, in the workplace. I know in school, I used to get a lot of, she doesn't exercise self-control. She talks too much, and I'd get into trouble for that. But in the workplace, I have learned to, you know, kind of take a breath, and before you start to go back at the other person. And maybe part of that is the Taurus part of my personality, because I don't flare up. I don't really yell and scream. I'm not a yeller. I don't scream, throw things. None of that is me. I'm pretty much, I can get angry, yes, but I do it in such a way that I try to keep my temper at all times. You know, I'm very cognizant of that, because, you know, there are people that can, you know, go crazy and say awful things. And then, you know, as a friend of mine said, then the bodies are strewn all over. And then that person is like ready to move on. And yet everybody else is like, you know, licking their wounds because they said so many horrible things. So I try never, ever to do that. You know, I'm not the name calling, the yelling, none of that is attractive to me. And I try never to do it.
Well, I would think that with your success in corporate, I think that Taurus is all about following the rules. Like, you follow the leader, you follow protocol. You know, and Aries doesn't really think about that. Taurus wants to have things like stable. Like, this is the boss, I respect the boss. Like, they're very much into hierarchies. So I feel like a lot of your success, at least corporate, may be attributed to that Taurus aspect, because essentially, typically, if you tell an Aries, oh, we have to do this, or this is the way the rules are, and this is what you have to do, they're going to be likely to rebel. They're going to be likely not to want to do that. Whereas Taurus actually has a certain comfort in that sense of, oh, okay, well, this is protocol. This is how I need to handle myself in this situation.
Yes.
So it's interesting. I'm sure that Taurus energy, because it's much more contained. And also, Taurus is a sign of emotional detachment, which I think in corporate you need.
Yes.
To a certain extent. Like, you can't fly off the handle. However, I do think that, like in New York anyway, from my experience in New York, if you are talented, you can get away with a lot. Have you seen people that were talented in your work in New York, and you're like,
oh yes,
like, wow, this person is just wild. How are they getting away with that?
Yeah. No, listen, if you're bringing in good money to a company, if you're a salesperson and you are kicking it in sales year after year, but you have a bad temper and you're, you know, kind of going off the rails, people kind of have a tendency to, you know, look the other way just because they're bringing in good money. And, you know, as I said, I had one salesperson that worked for me who was what I call a street angel house devil. He was an angel with his clients. He would do anything for them, go out to lunch, life of the party, funny, great, you know, great gifts at Christmas, and, you know, happy birthday cards and things. He'd come back to the office a devil, you know, throwing things. Where's this? You know, this file is out of order. Go insane. So the street angel house devil rule, I think, is a good application in that in this particular circumstance. As an example. Yeah.
But the Taurus energy, and I think that's just so relevant to your career. Taurus is really all about, well, it's anything that you take in, like anything that you breathe, the food that you eat. That's why Tauruses are known as foodies, and they're very sensual people. They're all about their senses, and perfume, fragrance is all about that. And I feel like Taurus in particular is actually going to like slow down to stop and smell the flowers.
Yeah.
Whereas Aries, they will step on those flowers. They need to get to where they need to go. You know what I mean? There's no time for flowers in a typical Aries life, right? I think for you, with Venus really close to Aries, I think it really softens it, because Aries essentially are very, very strong people. And we're talking archetypically. You have to look at the whole chart. But because they're strong and they're not afraid of confrontation, they tend to start a lot of shit with people because they can, and they know that they could win, because most people are not as confident. So they have a tendency to be confrontational. But I feel like with Venus so close to your sun, and that stellium in the 10th house, which is also all about status and position and leadership and self-control, the father principle. I don't feel like you're that shit starting confrontational type person.
No,
Yeah.
I don't think I could have survived this long in the corporate world if I was, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Absolutely. Yeah, of course. Because there is that held back. So it's really a wonderful blend of energies that you're playing with. Like you have that confidence and you know your stuff, and but at the same time, there's a certain groundedness and consideration and softer, because again, if you think about it, Aries is it really embodies the masculine archetype, which is Mars, and with Venus in Aries so close to your sun, that softens it, and then Taurus is ruled by Venus. So it's kind of perfect if you think about it, because you're an Aries, so you can get ahead and be this great leader and have that vision and fearlessness, but at the same time, it makes you really good in your job because you're not only really patient, but you're in the moment. You're in the present moment. And I feel like what they say is fire signs are always thinking about the future, like what's next. And Aries is a fire sign, so is Leo. And the water signs are usually nostalgic and they're focused on the past. And the earth signs, where you have your Taurus energy, is very much in the present. And the air signs, they bop around past, present, and future. But I feel like in that present moment is really where Taurus is. And just in my few interactions with you, I really think that's where you excel. You seem to be just so grounded and so much in that present moment.
Yeah. I think for me, it's gotten better over the years. I think when you're a young person just getting out of school, it's I notice, I don't know now if it's changed over the years, but I will tell you that when I interview a young person these days, they ask two questions, and the third one is usually, how long do I have to be in this job before I get promoted? They're already looking for the next thing. And I usually say, how about working in the position you're being hired for first, and let's see how you do. Well, how long does it usually take? How long was it before you got to be a director? How long? You can't go by anything else. Like you have to take in everything you can now in the position you have before you can, move ahead. But I think people do have a tendency to do that. And then, you know what? They never enjoy the life they have because they're so busy looking forward that they're not, you're never going to get today again. Today is today. You're never getting it back again. So you better enjoy every minute of it, So I don't know if that's something young people don't understand, or as I said, there are a lot of people that are just very impatient and want to become the president of a company, and I recently spoke at a NYU seminar, and I had one. All of them are brilliant. They're all grad students, and they really want to, get into the cosmetics and fragrance business and all. And one beautiful young woman, she came up and she said, maybe I just won't work in the corporate world. I'll just become a consultant. And I said, how? Because you don't know enough to consult, to be a consultant. You have to have, all kinds of experience from working on the fragrance side, on the beauty side. You have to know people. You have to be networked out. What are you going to consult for? Like you can't do that yet. You have to go through the motions and the steps, So I think that's, another example of, moving ahead too quickly.
Now, did you get that even early on in your career, or were you a little bit more impatient when you were first starting out?
It's funny. I was almost the opposite. I was always very happy with the job I had. And I never really pushed for a promotion. I was fortunate enough to have people that worked at the company that said, you know what, I think you're ready to be a VP, or I think you're ready to run the sales department. I never went in and said, could I do it? It was always brought to me. So, when I first started in the industry, I had no ideas of anything. I just wanted to do a good job for the person I worked for. And that was it, make a decent wage, and that was it. I never really had any ideas to do anything else. It just kind of happened. And I think it just happens from what you love to do and if you work hard.
Yeah. And also, I feel like with law of attraction, if you're like pushing something and I want to get that next role, you're not really allowing it. And it's almost like interviewing for a job when you really, really want it. I mean, 9 times out of 10, people don't get it, right? But when they're like, I don't care, I could just walk out now, I don't need this job, that's when they get it. So for you and your sense of patience and being satisfied and not rushing anything, I wonder if that attracted a lot more opportunities to you.
It could have, I mean, I have to be honest, there were times when I would have someone in a certain position and I'd say, oh, how the heck did that person get that job? They have no idea what they're doing and they're not doing it right. And I could do it a lot better. I would say that. But I would never go behind, sometimes, like a lot of television shows show you going behind that person's back to, put the knife in and get their job. That just never works long term. If you go behind somebody's back or, you talk about them and point out all their foibles and all that, it comes back to haunt you. It's in my personal opinion, it never works.
Yeah. What is it they say? The people that you step on the way up,
you meet on the way back down. Exactly right. Yeah, it's very true. Yeah, very
I love that. Well, your Taurus in your chart keeps you, nice, contained, and doing the right thing, and not, a spitfire. But it also is very much about your senses. So when did you start enjoying fragrance, or what was your introduction to fragrance in your life?
Well, when I got out of school, I wanted to get we used to call it secretarial jobs, back in those days. The word secretary doesn't really apply anymore, but at the time it did. And I had very good skills. I went to a secretarial school where, they taught me how to take steno and typing and, dictation and all. And I went to work for International Flavors and Fragrances in their fragrance sales department, working for a salesperson. And so it just, as luck would have it, when I would, the salesperson say was going to be presenting some fragrances to Estee Lauder or even to, for, a new Glade air freshener, the perfumers would give me the oils that they wanted to recommend, and I'd have to label them. So what I didn't realize I was doing was I was training my nose, because I would pick up the bottle and perfumer would handwrite the word spearmint, let's say, on it, smell it. Oh, spearmint. And then I typed a label that said spearmint and put it in, on the bottle. So it was presentable in order to present to clients. And what I was doing is I was training my nose at the same time, and building up, you build up basically an olfactory vocabulary in your head of scents. I mean, if you can remember certain fragrances, it helps, your mind. I mean, studies have been done about, for Alzheimer's patients, they, have certain fragrances that they smell, and it really does help to kind of revitalize, your brain cells and things of that nature. But anyway, that's what I was doing. And so at one point, down the line, IFF gave fragrance tests, and they said, if anybody wants to take the tests and see if they have a nose or not, by all means. And I thought, I'll take it. Again, like, all right, it's lunchtime, I'll do it. And they came back and said, you have a great nose. I said, really? Who knew? So I kind of, and then I just kept developing and working with various clients, and it kind of, rolled from there. But you have to have, your olfactory senses have to be kind of keen. And a lot of people have it. They just don't know how to hone in on them. Some people say, oh, I have a great nose. And I said, why do you say that? Well, I can smell somebody smoking a cigarette, half a mile away. Well, okay, you have a good nose, but you don't have the olfactory, vocabulary, if you will, but you have a sharp sense of smell. It's a little different.
Right. So, but before the job that had you smelling these different fragrances, were you wearing perfume when you were a teenager, or were you always into fragrance even before you started working in that realm?
I liked fragrance, and I think I went more for the bottle than anything else. For Christmas, my parents would give me Heaven Scent, which was a little angel, with wings and a box and everything. I just loved the way it looked on my dresser. I didn't wear it every day. And then in the summer, I would wear something called Lemon Up, which was, just cheap lemon, spray, things like that. I didn't pay that much attention to it because it was expensive. I was just using babysitting money, so
Yeah.
I didn't really, and again, I used to use like Jean Naté. As I said, it's a fabulous, wonderful thing to splash on it after you take a shower in the summer. You still, to this day, you can splash it on, and it kind of revitalizes you. So I didn't really enjoy fine fragrance until I started working at IFF. And then when I realized where these chemicals were coming from all over the world, and curating certain, types of rose bergamot and things of that nature, that's when I really started to realize, wow, there's something to this. It's like someone that's cooking, at first you just, throw, chopped meat in the pan with a little, salt and pepper. And then once you start using all the other ingredients, you really, everything's enhanced, and it boom, then it hits you,
Right on. So when you got introduced to it, was there a first fragrance that you grabbed? Like, what was the first luxury or real fragrance, so to speak, that you fell in love with, so to speak?
I hate to say, it was Youth Dew.
What's it called?
Youth Dew. It was an Estee Lauder fragrance. It was very heavy. It was I believe it was one of her first fragrances that she created with the help of IFF. And when she started her business, she actually just bought the oil from IFF, and she mixed it in her bathtub with her own alcohol and water. Wow. And poured it in little bottles. And she actually is the pioneer of sampling, because what she did was she would get these little bottles, and she would go to hair salons and things and say, honey, why don't you try this? It's called Youth Dew. And people would take the little bottles, and oh my God, they loved it, and so that's how she ended up starting her own business. And funny quick story, she went into Saks Fifth Avenue and said, you need to put my fragrance in this store. And they said, no, we don't know who you are. We're not doing it. So she accidentally, on purpose, smashed a bottle of this fragrance on the floor. Wow. And the entire floor was wafting of Youth Dew. And by the afternoon, everybody was saying, what is that fragrance? I have to have it. And boom, before you know it, she was in Saks Fifth Avenue. So, but she was a clever marketer, and I was very lucky to work with her personally. And that
you worked with her personally?
Yeah, from IFF. She did all of her fragrances at IFF. So I had, contact with her through my salesperson. That was her salesperson.
So you worked with Estee Lauder?
With her at IFF, yeah.
Amazing. That's amazing. Yeah. So, well, what was she? She was obviously a go-getter with that story.
Brilliant marketer. Yeah. And she was a pioneer in so many ways. I mean, she got the best out of the perfumers at IFF. They were all trying their very best to win the next fragrance, for her. She had great noses that she had on her side that were evaluating with her. It's a woman, Karen Corey, who has the most amazing nose you'll ever, know in your life. She worked with Mrs Lauder for years. But Mrs Lauder was kind of, she spearheaded everything. She was the person that started different notes. She created certain combinations of notes. But for me, Youth Dew was, you put it on and everyone knew you had it on. So there's no doubt about it, Youth Dew.
How do you spell that?
It's Youth. DEW.
Oh, used to. Okay, I've never
Used to.
heard of that. So
Yeah.
what does it smell like?
Why don't you look it up on the on our
I
on
I
the
need to actually.
yeah,
Yeah. What we're talking about is Perfumist.
the
So
Perfumist. Yes,
yeah,
it's the biggest perfume website in the world right now, and you can find any fragrance that's been created and find out all about it. It's a terrific tool for people if that want to know anything about perfume. So
it really is, and you can actually use the QR code if you're watching this on YouTube to get to the site. Well, essentially, it's an app. You can go to perfumist.fr to
right,
learn more about it. But if you type in Perfumist, you can find it on Google Play, on the App Store, and it's really the coolest thing I think I've ever seen in regard to fragrance. Essentially, you can go onto this site and say, for instance, say I like bergamot. That's how you say it, right? Bergamot.
yes, hmm,
Yeah. So say I typed in bergamot, it would give me all of these fragrances that have bergamot in it, and then I
yes,
would be able to do further investigating and get that fragrance. It's really
right,
the coolest thing,
yeah.
um,
And
especially if somebody wants to find a fragrance if they know what they like, right?
right, right. It is important to put perfumist dot fr because it is it's created in France. So
Mhm,
if you go on regular perfumist, you might find a place that will sell you oils or something. So you have to make sure to put the FR in there.
mhm.
But they actually, some of the olfactory schools have actually been using them to train future perfumers and evaluators. So there's that section of the app as well. So it's really it's fun. You know, you can kind of go down the rabbit hole with it too, though. You start saying, "Oh, how about this? And what's in Coco Chanel's this?" And before you know it, you're on the app for half an hour. But it's cool to find out what are the top fragrances, maybe in South Africa, or what like is Coco Chanel's Coco Mademoiselle. Is that, I know it's the number one fragrance in the U.S. Is it the same in France or not? Like people in Spain have a tendency to prefer its top selling fragrances are a little more with this in citrus category, fresher, less heavy. And so in France, some of them are heavier. There was a time when I would go to Paris and I would just smell heavy fragrances on the street, like all the time. You can just identify those, but not maybe in the US. So I think the French are a little more daring and a little more different and when it comes to perfume. So you can really understand and all the insights from all over the world on fragrance taste.
Yeah, I love the site. So offhand, do you know when they say, okay, the top note, the middle note, a bass note, maybe
Base
what
note, bottom note.
what does that mean? Like for a normal person, if they're on perfumist.fr and they are seeing this top, mid, bass, or whatever, what does that mean in layman's terms?
Yeah. So basically, when the perfumer makes a fragrance, he gathers different notes, chemicals, molecules, etc., that will, of course, smell good when they're all kind of put together. But what happens is that he or she will start out with the top notes, which are usually those that are a little more airy, fresher, so that when you first put it on your skin, those are the notes that you smell right away, and they will dissipate over a little bit of time. The mid notes are more florals, things that are a little heavier, which make them, which add to the prettiness of the fragrance and add to the nuance of it. And of course, have to work well with the citrus or, top notes that they put in. And then the bottom notes are the ones that last after an hour or two. When you go back to smell, those are the heavier notes. Those are the ambers and some of the ambergris and things of that nature, that musk, those things, vanilla, those are the heavier notes that last the longest on your skin. But the beauty of it is that it's put together in such a way that it should be like a bouquet. So you're able to smell everything and hopefully love it. And then you get the chance to enjoy it as it kind of dries down. So it's really quite a science.
It really is. And you were saying that a perfume or a cologne that smells good on one person isn't going to smell necessarily good on another.
Absolutely.
And this is due to pheromones. Is that
pheromones? Those have a lot to do with it. Yeah. Firstly, a fragrance, if it smells good on your friend, just don't necessarily say, oh, I'm going to buy that. It's going to smell exactly like that on me. No, it's not. Everybody smells differently. The only two people that, the only two that you probably could get away with it are identical twins. They, have the same exact, they taste the same and they smell the same, but everybody else has differences. So my skin could be a little, has more of the, is a little drier than yours. And, I sometimes ask people, when you go out in the sun, do you burn? Do you tan? Do you burn first, then tan? Do you peel? All of those things have a lot to do with your skin type. Mm-hmm. So don't think that if your friend wears, Coco Mademoiselle, you're going to wear it and smell the same. It just doesn't work that way. On the other side of it, pheromones, everybody has a smell to them. It's more like an animal smell, instinct smell. And those are pheromones which people feel can sexually be attractive to another person. Sometimes you just meet somebody and you say, I don't know what it is about them, I just like them. Well, it's because you're smelling their pheromones. Everybody's body smells like something. And sometimes I recall there was a movie, I think it was a summer of 42 or something. And the woman went into her husband's closet and he had just passed away. And she just grabbed the sleeve of his suit and she took a deep breath because it brought back his smell. She knew that was him, and from a sexual standpoint, you can be attracted to another person because of the way they smell. They've done studies where, of course your dog knows how you smell. Mm-hmm. You put 4 coats on a bed and you tell your dog, jump on the bed, guess what? He's going to probably go on your coat and smell and sit there because he's like, this is my owner and this is where I belong. Yeah. They did another study where they sprayed pheromones on the bleachers of an outdoor arena. And they said to people, sit wherever you want. And then when they showed where they all ended up sitting, they all kind of gathered in that basic area where the pheromones were sprayed. And then nobody sat where there was nothing. So it's like a inert attraction that, sometimes people say, oh, I'm going to put pheromones in my fragrance, but those are manufactured pheromones. The ones that I'm talking about are just how you smell, how I smell. And, hopefully you attract somebody with that smell, either from a sexual standpoint or just as a friendship standpoint, or I don't like them. I don't know what it is about them. I don't like them. Could be the pheromones.
And you can't, so if you wanted to bottle your pheromones, you couldn't do it for a human being. They would have to manufacture them.
Yeah. I don't think they could. If they do, I'm not aware of that. That's for sure. Are
they transferable? So say like I rolled around with somebody, would I now have their pheromones with my pheromones?
No, I don't think so. No, okay. But you might smell them on your shirt or
right
on the bed or whatever, but
so if somebody's going to say somebody is ready for a new beginning and they want to let fragrance be a part of that new beginning, because it does make sense, right? Because the smells that you smell, they must do a lot of things psychologically for you. Mm-hmm. Can you talk about that, like the benefits of of using fragrance for, say, a new beginning? If somebody wants to, say she's out on the town again after a breakup, or moving into a new job, or some new
Yeah,
trajectory in her life.
absolutely. Very important. There are people that say, this is my fragrance, and they wear this one particular fragrance for years and years and years. And okay, I understand that, because maybe their husband loves that fragrance on them, or they just have an affinity towards it. They think it smells good. But number one is, after a while, you will become anosmic to that fragrance, meaning you lose your sense of smell to it, because you're so used to it that your nose doesn't pick it up anymore. So you are losing out on the enjoyment of smelling yourself wearing something, because after a while you can't smell it. How many times have you said, oh, that smells good, and the person says, I don't smell it on me at all? It's because you're anosmic now. So if you want to start, this is a kind of the right time, isn't it, to start the new things?
Yeah.
My advice is to go to the store
Mm-hmm.
and smell some things and put them on your skin, walk around and see how you feel wearing it. Fragrance is supposed to make you feel good about yourself. It's supposed to make you feel confident. It's supposed to make you feel sexy. It's supposed to could make you feel young again. It can do so many different things, that I kind of feel so sad for people that don't want to take a chance and try something new. And again, go on the Perfumist website and look at what people say about the fragrances that they're wearing, and take a shot. Get some fragrances and try them. They don't have to cost thousands of dollars. Sometimes something inexpensive just hits you the right way on a certain day, and you wear it. I wear fragrance every single day of my life, whether I stay in the house, or I go to the dog groomer, or I go to the dry cleaners. I am always wearing perfume. It's part of who I am.
Mm-hmm.
It makes me feel powerful. It makes me feel good. It makes me feel attractive. And I just love it. When I get into bed at night, I spray my pillow with some lavender, to kind of help me to go into a more of a relaxing state. I just adore it. And I think the more you know about fragrance, the more you're going to enjoy it.
Absolutely. So do you suggest that somebody have that signature scent? Like, okay, this is my go-to, I'm always doing this. Or do you think that somebody should have like a day fragrance as well as a nighttime fragrance? What is your feeling on that?
Well, for sure, day and a night fragrance, I find, because I think a lot of people get offended by a very heavy fragrance. If they're standing next to them, you're like, oh my God, this person's giving me a headache. For me, I love to wear Coco Noir. That's a beautiful fragrance for me, for my skin type, but I don't wear it every day. I wear it if I'm going out in the evening. I'm wearing it for a special occasion. I'm wearing it to try to make a good impression on someone. I don't wear it all the time. And I think you should have basically a library of fragrances that you can wear from day to day. A sunny, beautiful day, it's 80 degrees, and maybe you spray on something a little more citrus. It's a snowy day, it's cold out. Maybe you want to pour something that's a little vanilla, musky, or you're at home cuddling with your lover. You want to smell something that's got a little more, sexiness to it. It depends on the day. I mean, don't wear the same thing every single day over and over. It's boring.
Oh, okay.
I think.
Mm-hmm. That's so interesting. Okay, so what would be the difference? Like, what would you not wear at work, but you would totally wear on a hot date in terms of fragrance?
Well, like I said, I think things that have, and again, like you'd have to look at what smells good on you, but heavier fragrances during the day I don't think work very well. I would wear something a little more lime, citrus, basil, things of that nature for men, things like that. Oceanic, ozone, those things are really great notes to wear during the day. But then at night, if you want to, it's part of getting dressed,
Yeah.
it's part of your wardrobe. You put fragrance on. We talked about this too. Sometimes you don't want to be too heavy. So you spray it in the air and you just walk through it and you just get a waft of it. And it kind of lingers in your hair and it lingers a little bit on your clothing. And you leave your signature with that person,
Yeah.
so that after you leave, they are reminded of you by the way that you smell.
Yeah, that's so cool. So at least a day and a night, right?
At least.
But you would say ideally, how many fragrances should be in one's fragrance
Oh
wardrobe?
my gosh.
Ideally.
It depends. I mean, people say to me, what is your favorite fragrance? And to me, that's like picking my favorite child. You can't.
Yeah.
You just depends on my mood. It depends on how I feel that day. So I must have at least 50 fragrances in my house. And I do keep a lot of them in the refrigerator because they do last longer that way. If you keep them out in the sun, I have one friend and she said, I just wear, my fragrance twice a year when I go out on, special occasions. And I want to say, honey, that fragrance is gone. Like once you open the bottle, wear it because it will churn. There is alcohol in it. And after a while, it goes bad. It's like a wine. You can't keep wine, out for a week. It's going to turn, it's going to taste like vinegar, So it's the same thing with, your fragrance, I have a friend who says, I said, well, what do you like? And she's like, I only like light things like Shalimar. Well, Shalimar is to me, one of the heaviest fragrances you can wear because it's very loaded with vanilla and it's a beautiful fragrance, but it is on the heavier side, but in her mind, because she's worn it so much and she's become so anosmic to it, for her, it's a very light, fragrance. But to me, it's a sexy, beautiful creation. But to me, I think it's more of a evening, date night kind of a fragrance. But that's me, it's my personal opinion.
And what's the shelf life? So if you wind up buying a perfume or a cologne, you're going to have to toss it within a year?
Yes, pretty much.
Wow.
Pretty much. I mean, I can smell things, and when they start to go bad, on me, I can start to smell it in the bottle. After a year, I think you should start to think about, maybe getting a new one. Again, if someone wears a fragrance every single day and they only wear that one fragrance, they're going to go through it in 6 months. So, it's fine. But if you do have a wardrobe of fragrances, maybe it's best not to buy the huge bottle, but to buy the smaller ones.
Yeah.
And then you can, kind of smell different ones as you kind of wear them and just, be aware. But like I said, if you keep them in the refrigerator, if you keep them out of the direct sunlight, on your dresser, where the sun beats down on them every day, they will last longer.
That's good to know. So say a lady is about ready to start a new beginning and she's looking for a few different fragrances. She wants her new work fragrance for her new job, and she wants her one fragrance for her date life and her night life. So she goes into a perfumery. How many fragrances can she actually put in her body? Because you're saying that she should actually put it on her skin.
Yeah.
How many before this becomes, everything gets loaded?
Mixed up. Yeah.
Yeah, mixed up.
Well, I mean, a few things. One is that's why the reason why I kind of took my career in the direction of sampling, because I'm a big believer in sample before you buy.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have worked with creating the scent strips that you smell in magazines or vials that you buy and things. Try it, sample it first. How many can you try on your skin? I'd say maybe 4, maybe 2 on your pulse points and on maybe in your arm or, on the back of your hand. When you do put it on, don't rub it like this, because then you mix the oils with your skin and it kind of screws everything up. So spray it, let it air out a little bit. Don't touch it, and then smell. But after 4, I think it's very difficult to determine one from the next. Some people are like, I don't remember now. I'm confused. It's, and it should be a fun experience, not, something that's, pressurized. So maybe you go back 2 or 3 times before you buy,
So about application, before, a long time ago, they used to say, if you want your perfume, your cologne to last, get a dab of Vaseline, spray the fragrance, and then, because then it will stay with you longer. That's a no from what I'm getting from you.
I never heard that.
Oh, you
I mean, I think that if you want to make it last longer, then you should layer it. And by that, I mean, get the shower gel, get the body lotion or the body cream of the same fragrance, and then put the fragrance on. And then you're layering it over, on top of, and that will make it last longer. Yes.
Okay, right on. So, maybe you can talk specifics. I don't know if you can, but say a lady is going for a new job and she wants to make a good impression, but she doesn't want anything offensive. Like, what are some of her options for her professional fragrance?
Oh, geez. That's a hard one. I mean, I think, again, there's so many fragrances out there. I couldn't possibly, recommend one over another one. But again, I would keep it on the light side.
Yeah.
Keep it on the light side. You don't want your fragrance to enter before you do. And you don't want your fragrance to make a bigger impression on the other person than you.
Right.
So you don't want to be identified as the guy that had the leather fragrance on. That's not what you want. You just want there to be a little nuance of something that smells good while you're sitting there, and it gives them more of a positive, feeling towards you, and it gives them a signal that you care about your appearance, that you care about who you are as a person. I would say there's a lot of fragrances that Jo Malone makes. I love Jo Malone.
Yeah.
And the fragrances that they do are absolutely beautiful. Some of them, they use, blueberry, limes and things like that. I have a friend that wears the blueberry every time we play golf, and I sit in the car with her and I'm like, oh my God, it smells great. So I went out and I thought, I'm going to buy that. I want to see how it smells on me. I knew it wouldn't smell as good. And I bought everything. I bought the shower gel and all that. And does it smell on me? Yes, it smells okay. Not like it does on her. But she's very light skinned. And for her, that blueberry just, it's just beautiful. It's clean and fresh. And it's perfect for playing golf. It's a great golf, fragrance. So I do use it, but unfortunately, it just doesn't smell as good on me. But a lot of the Jo Malones are very, very good.
That's good to know. So in terms of notes, then, if we can't get into specific perfumes or colognes, like what notes would you say are better? This is daytime, office appropriate, professional, versus you want to make sure that you make an impression and that whoever you're with is, a puddle on the floor because they're so attracted to you.
Yeah.
So what would be the difference?
Yeah. Well, I think, again, for day, you want light, fresh, clean. For evening, I will tell you that, again, there have been a lot of studies done. I worked with Cher on her fragrance, Uninhibited. I don't think it's around anymore, but anyway, she, wanted something sexy. That was all she cared about. She wanted her bottle to be black and gold, and she wanted the powder to be silver, and she kept saying to the perfumer, I want a sexy fragrance. I want a man to just want to take me home and, all that. So we did a lot of studies on it, and we found vanilla is the most important fragrance smell for a man. And the reason for that is that men will always smell vanilla and think of home, baking, security, mom, just like comfort. And they find that very sexy and very attractive. So if you get a fragrance that has a lot of that vanilla in it, the chances are very good, unless they have an aversion to vanilla, which very few men do,
right.
That they're gonna take to you. much better. You know, I was at a dinner one night, and this one gentleman came along with some of my other friends, and I didn't even know his name really. And he said, "Oh, what are you doing?" I said, "I'm in the fragrance business." And he said, "Oh, I bet you don't know what I like on a woman." And I just threw it out there. I said, "I bet it's vanilla." He goes, "Oh my God, how do you know?" You know, I thought, not a hard guess, you know, because vanilla works with men.
That's so good to know. So, but daytime, I feel like it works really well with men, but daytime, would vanilla be a bad idea? Is it too intense to where vanilla is like an office appropriate for a woman?
For me, I don't think it is, but that's just me. You know, I mean, I don't like, well, okay, first of all, I always work with fragrances all day long. So during the day when I'm at work, I really can't wear fragrance per se, because I'll contaminate the environment that I'm in. And when I was working at IFF, they would use me, as they would call me, for skin. And basically I had to have clean skin, and the perfumer would try different fragrances on my arm, you know, and once in a while, thank God I didn't smoke cigarettes, because everybody that smoked was, you know, because it oozes right through your pores. Yeah. They were eliminated because I was a non-smoker. But once in a while they would say, "Did you have something with garlic in it last night?" I said, "Oh, I think I had spaghetti." You're out, you know, because the garlic reeks in your skin for days sometimes, you know. So I was always very careful not to, you know, have anything very spicy the night before. Don't be even around smokers. Don't drink a lot of alcohol. It all comes through your skin the next day, through your pores.
Oh, wow. So that's another thing people have to not to have to think about. They can't have spicy food before the night before that hot date.
Right. Or don't think that because you spray fragrance on that you're going to get a cigarette in and sneak it. It's not going to work.
And you probably can't mask.
Oh no. I can smell. I mean, you know, I hate to quote Monk, you know, the TV show, but you know, sometimes having a good nose is a blessing and a curse. Because you get on an elevator and I say, "Oh God, that man didn't wash his hair for a few days," or "I don't think she took a shower this morning," or like, you know, you pick up, you know, I was in a group photo the other day and they were all, "Okay, ready to come close." I'm like, "Oh no." And so in my, you know, there were heads, you know, right underneath me, and I could just, "This one smells good." She's Head and Shoulders today. She had you know, I was like, you know, smelling everybody's hair, and, you know, it gets a little crazy, but
I imagine working in fragrance, most of the people around you are going to just smell really, really good.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So you're lucky.
Yeah.
You're going to have, because you have a really particular nose. Would you say that's the first thing perhaps that you notice about somebody, because your nose is so trained?
If they are wearing a fragrance, yes. If they aren't, then, you know, I can't really, you know, determine anything except, you know, from their personality. No. But if they are wearing a fragrance, you know, there was a waitress I had once, and I said, "Oh, are you wearing J'adore?" She's like, "Oh my God, yes. How did you know that?" You know, and I was surprised that as a waitress, she could wear perfume, because when you're serving food, sometimes it doesn't make for a good match, you know. Right. But we were outside, and I guess it was okay, and it did smell very good on her. But you know, it depends on what your job is as well. You know, if you're in food service or things of that nature, or, you know, I'm also very inclined to go very light if I'm flying. Because if I'm on an airplane with someone, and God forbid they have allergies to fragrance or something, I don't want to make them uncomfortable. So maybe I'll just use some body lotion and, you know, kind of keep it on the down low, because there are people that do have, you know, actual allergies to certain things, and you don't want them on a transatlantic flight, you know, sneezing and scratching their eyes for, you know, 7 hours. Right. So you have to be kind of aware of that as well, you know, be mindful.
And when you say light, are we talking like for a regular perfume bottle or a cologne bottle, how many spritzes are we giving when you say light versus okay, plane, not on a plane, say office versus nighttime, or is it the same amount of sprays?
No, I mean, for me, if I'm going out on a date, I like to make sure I'm wearing fragrance that, he will smell. So I'll probably spray, I spray the back of my neck, of course, and at my decolletage, I spray my arms. I'll spray it through my hair. I do give it a good once over. If I'm going to, the gym, I try to stay away from anything heavy and just maybe some kind of a very light citrus, something fresh, because you're in with people that are sweating, and it's not always the best environment. So I try to keep it clean there. If I'm at the office, again, depending on where I am, but I do try to keep it on the lighter side. Evening to me is more the time for the heavier fragrances, and I would say one or two spritzes in the neck and in the wrists and things like that, and that should do it.
Pulse points. Really cool. So is there any advice you would give somebody, say they want this new beginning in their life and they're like, I need something different? And as we spoke about, there's something that affects you on another level, right? With fragrance that you're not necessarily conscious of. It's just, it'll make you feel different. So how might a man, or mostly women, because that's our audience is mostly women, but even a man, how might they incorporate more fragrance into their life for this new beginning? Should they just go to the store, the perfume store, and smell a bunch of different things? And
well, I mean, I think, yes, you have to smell first. You have to wear it first, which is also what boggles my mind about, buying a fragrance on Amazon or something without smelling it first. You can't. Well, you shouldn't. Let me put it to you that way. Just because it sounds like it's going to smell a certain way doesn't mean it will smell that way when you get it on your skin. Mm-hmm. So you really need to sample it. As I said, the vials are a good way to sample. If you get an e-commerce package, sometimes they put little fragrances, in there. Always smell everything, but also keep an open mind. Don't say, I don't like vanilla, so I'm not going to wear it, because you know what? It might smell delicious on you, and it might smell so good that you couldn't imagine ever wearing it. But sometimes, the answer is yes, you should try it. So don't just close yourself down or say, I don't like Estee Lauder's fragrances. Well, there's so many of them. Try, just pick one up and say, let me try this. This is interesting looking. It's almost like don't hate a book by its cover kind of thing. It's the same thing. Try different ingredients, try different notes. Maybe one day practice, just go to the store and just use florals that day. And then the next day, come back and just go for some aldehydes, powdery notes, things of that nature. Some florals, some beautiful freesias and things like that. Try different kind of categories, different days. Don't just rush out and buy the first thing you smell. It's fun. Again, I also, in my home, I'm a big candle person. I love candles. And I like my home to smell like the season, so I do buy, some of the, the balsam type things. And for, winter, I have some summery candle smells that I put in the summer. Again, fragrance just enhances your mood, makes you feel better. So, experience it everywhere.
Excellent. That's so great. So people go to Perfumist. That's PERFUMIST.FR online to find this. You can actually use the QR code that you see here, and you can get the app on Google Play or your app store, and that can help start the journey. You can investigate what scents you like, and then you can go to your local perfumery and do what Diane says. I can't thank you enough, Diane, for sharing all this stuff about fragrance. I think that's awesome. You can find more information about Diane in the show notes or in the YouTube description. And I can't thank you enough. And hopefully we'll do something like this again.
Yes, I hope so. It's my passion. I love it. And, if you have any questions, feel free to email me or let me know if what I'm always around for anything having to do with the nose.
I love that. That's great. That's great. And before we go, if you're not keen on buying somebody a fragrance for this holiday season, if you're looking for the perfect gift, you can get a gift certificate for a psychic astrology reading. It's the ideal present for anyone on your holiday list, whether it's for Christmas, Hanukkah, a birthday, or just because. With various denominations and stylish designs, you can give the gift of insight and transformation. So this year, skip the crowded malls and endless gift searches. Choose a present that brings clarity and connection. Visit psychicsun.com/gift-certificates today and make someone's holiday truly special. And don't forget to treat yourself too. You can also find more information about my services at psychicsun.com. The link to that is in the description below. So bye everybody at home. And thank you again, Diane. We hope to do this again. Okay.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.